Is the Bitcoin bottom in? In this video, guys, we're going to dive down into the world of Bitcoin, taking a look at what's been going on most recently and what I would expect to happen next. As I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. And if you haven't yet joined us in Discord, link is in the description down below. It's a fantastic community talking crypto 24/7, and it's completely free. I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there. Okay, cool. Let's waste no more time. Let's jump right down into this. We have Bitcoin paired up with USDT. We're on the hourly chart, and Binance is our data source. Now, yesterday we did invalidate the structure that I was talking about. For the downside. Now, a lot of people have been kind of speculating that maybe we've hit the bottom, and I'm going to go through why I at this point don't want to necessarily say that we have. There are a few variables that are still actually indicating more room to the downside, and until those are actually aligned to I guess some of these other kind of moves in the space, can we really be more bullish about it? I think essentially we have a little bit more on the bearish side. Now, the pump that happened yesterday is, again, it's corrective. It doesn't actually show us a trend to the upside. There's no reversal in the direction of the move just yet. And essentially with all the overlap of the candles, this is just telling me that maybe there was a lot of liquidations going on. Maybe too many people were shorting the market, and you got this bounce to the upside. But what we're going to do is we're going to see where I may have gone wrong, because invalidations of these structures, these potential moves to the downside as I had them, it could mean that I've miscalculated one of my waves, therefore indicating that we that I've given you kind of, information that isn't quite necessarily where it needs to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this, right? Because we were talking about maybe pulling down towards 15K approximately. And our target that we spoke about yesterday was 16.5 to 17.2 before we saw a bounce. Now, our bounce actually came a little bit too high, okay, at 17,600, right? So $17,500. Now, that area should have been lower in order for this wave count to have made sense, and then we should have had the bounce upwards. So I was always expecting a bounce up. I just wasn't expecting it to happen here. It needed to happen lower, and because it happened where it did, it does invalidate this structure. This structure is no longer following Elliott wave theory rules, and therefore it's important that I readjust this. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually leave in these wave counts because they are technically correct, but what I am going to do is I'm going to remove the macro view just there for a sec. Okay, because essentially I was tracking this as a wave 3, and this was going to be a wave 4, and then we were going to pull back down. Now, it's possible, as I said, that there is our final 5th wave done, and that's that, but we have overlap now. So the only other way that this could work still is that it's an ending diagonal pattern, where wave 4 is allowed to cross wave 1, right? So you have 1, 2, you then have 3 down here, and then you have this cross happening here on wave 1 that is allowed on an ending diagonal, and we still come down lower, but it wouldn't be 15,000. It would probably be around the 16,000 or so. That's one scenario, and that keeps this pattern, this structure. However, it's also possible that maybe this isn't actually the end of the 5th wave at all. Maybe that comes later. Maybe we are experiencing a 4th wave, and maybe this is actually just our 3rd wave, and that comes in like so, and then we end up with a structure that looks a little bit more like this across our patterns here. Now, that would be, again, very valid. You could still count that would work. You would still have the same problem where this is just a zigzag towards the end here, and it hasn't really completed. So again, you haven't really got a good structure in that 5th wave. With that being said, you haven't really got a fantastic structure in wave 1 either, specifically up here. So yeah, so that's one other path that we have here. Now, if we try to think about more kind of bullish structures, how do we get out of here? How do we indicate that our lows are in? And what is it that I'm thinking, or why I'm thinking, that we have this room to the downside? If we bring the stochastic RSI, the momentum indicator, you can see that actually this is looking pretty good, right? We've gone from overbought to oversold whilst we're moving up here with a couple of fluctuations. That's actually a good sign, but we've got overlap, right? So this area here overlaps this high area. Then you've got this low area overlapping this one. And it does stay above here right at the moment, right? So there's so much overlap going on there that it is just corrective. So again, it's not a trend-setting set of patterns. So yeah, we should be concerned about that. I did see some people saying, oh, there's a cup and handle, but you've actually just got V-bottom stuff going on. You want to avoid anything like that. Cup and handles are not very accurate either. So I'd be concerned about trying to map out those patterns where possible, and they've got a less than 70% accuracy rate in actually fulfilling them. So I don't think there's that going on. But if we jump over into the 4-hourly, you can see that we're overbought, which is indicating there is room to the downside to be had here. So we have to pull back down on the 4-hourly chart. And the same thing is also said here for the 8-hourly chart. The 8-hourly chart is also indicating room to the downside. So we've got two kind of, small to medium time frames that are saying that we do need to see some significant downside. And we can see that we actually, we haven't moved this 8-hour stochastic RSI, but we have printed a pretty sizable red candle to start with. So we could start to slip down pretty steeply here. And it'll be interesting to kind of see how this plays out on this, particularly the 8-hourly chart here. But very, very close. So 17,600 is our low, 17,622. Now, yeah, so if I'm trying to kind of plot out a kind of, good sentiment, a good move to the upside, the only thing I can see at the moment would be that this is some kind of W. We have some kind of pullback to an X wave, and then we have a Y wave going up higher. That's the only thing that I can kind of see there. Now, that in theory, if that is a move that is going to play out, would take us a little way higher. Let me just move that over. We've got a little bit of a kind of reduction here. So again, let me grab this, move that over, and then move this one to that low. Okay, so I would estimate that our this potential corrective pattern could potentially take us to about $22,500. That could be just a wave 4, taking our hourly chart into an overbought situation, and then we finally have that drop potentially afterwards. So a little interesting kind of stuff going on here. Not anything kind of definitive in many sense. We have essentially got all of these corrective structures. If I zoom out into a 4-hour, the reason that we've got such a powerful kind of descent going on here is that we have a full structure, and that's the thing that we're looking for completing here. We've kind of got a 5, we've got 5, we've got 5. And we're looking to see whether or not we actually get that overextension towards the end there. This final 5th wave looks like it is overextending with the way that it's pulled back down. So again, it's possible, but we are talking about, the 5th wave of the 5th wave of the 5th wave and all of that. So really, really difficult to be 100%, but we are very, very close to the bottom. If that isn't the bottom at 17,600, then I do estimate that we're going to be slightly lower than that, not too much further, and then the bottom would be in. But until we actually start to see a proper corrective, also a trend-based patterns reversing the direction of the market, downside unfortunately is still on the table here. But we are close to it, so hopefully many people have been dollar cost averaging into the market. But do remember, I'm not a financial advisor. I cannot give you financial advice. All I can do is give you my thoughts and opinions on the data in the charts as I see it. And 17,600, a few months ago I would not have thought would have been the bottom. I've been talking about 22 to 23,000 for a very long time. Coming down to these low areas, it is very low, so it could be the bottom. But until I see the right structure forming to the upside, or we have some kind of hidden divergence or anything like that, which we don't, at the moment we should still be estimating more room to the downside. And whether or not we stay above 17,600, it's still yet to be remain. Now, if I jump over into our Bitstamp data and take this into our weekly, with the weekly close position yesterday just above the previous all-time high, we failed to close a weekly candle lower than the previous all-time high. Okay, so that's an interesting thing to note. You can wick down, but we haven't closed below the previous all-time high, at least according to Bitstamp here. And if I do throw on the Gaussian channel, because this is the one that I'm really interested in at the moment and seeing how this one reacts. If we take a look at where we were back in 2017, it was basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks until we reach the bottom from when this turned red. We are 1, 2, 3. We're on the 4th week, so potentially a bounce upwards. Again, you could see there was a bounce right about here. We moved up and then we fell down into the final low. It's possible that we come down, we bounce up a little bit, and then we have the final low afterwards. So you can see right here the structure that we are talking about. So yeah, all that's looking pretty good from the Gaussian channel point of view. Now, if we come over into where we were previously in 2015 lows, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. And again, there was a bounce up before we had the final collapse down. We are yet to see those bounces here within this structure. Since turning red, we haven't bounced up. So this bounce could be going up and then dragging us into the final lows. Just getting a quick reset on those charts. That's kind of how I'm looking at it at the moment. I'm not 100% confident that this is done just yet. If we throw on the 200 SMA, you can again see that we closed below the SMA, the 200 SMA. This is not too unfamiliar with what happened back in 2013, but we did not close below it in 2018 bear market low. So interesting kind of stuff there with the SMA. EMA is not really too much to know other than the fact that we are now officially below it, which means we aren't going to be down here for too long before we actually get the reversal to the upside. So all in all, everything's looking pretty good. Good to note that the Gaussian channels are looking in a pretty good sweet spot. And yeah, we are now kind of just waiting out to see how this next little corrective structure up finishes, and then I'm hoping to finish off with the proper structure down, and then from there we can see the reversal in the market with a trend-based pattern forming to the upside. So guys, I'm going to leave the video there. If you have found this useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With all that said, done out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.